Well, thank you so much for being here with me once again on another episode of A Legacy of Love, Un Legado de Amor. And with that said, today I have the honor, the privilege to be with this amazing doctor that's also a friend of ours. His name is Jeff Angobaldo. And I know that we'll see if we could have the opportunity of seeing also his fiance, Karina. But hi, doctor. Thank you for being here with me once again on this episode.
Well, thank you for having me, Analee. It's a nice day
Yes.
today.
Yes. Well, we know that we all have a story, and we know that you have a story yourself. I would love to know a little bit about what you do. As I said, I know you're a doctor, but I would love for you to share that with us.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm originally from New York City. That's where I was born and raised in Queens, New York. I'm the son of immigrant parents, and it was quite an adjustment trying to I guess assimilate and work hard. And I was not ever diagnosed until recently, but I had ADHD and dyslexia. And that's always a little bit challenging because in the first grade, they wanted me to repeat the first grade because I wasn't reading that well. And I thought it was more at that time, and we all thought that too, more of a cultural difference because my parents were speaking Spanish. That's pretty much my primary language. But, in hindsight now, since all the kids were diagnosed with dyslexia, it was dyslexia. And so, yeah, that's always a little challenging because when you're dyslexic, it's always difficult to read, especially at that time. They would pick kids out of the classroom in the second grade to read out loud, and I was very, very like nervous about that, and I was always hoping they'll never pick me because I wasn't the best reader. And one thing that I learned was just to memorize a lot of those words and to work very hard. That's one thing that I think I have as one of my biggest strengths is my work ethic. And because nothing ever came very easy, so I always had to study very hard. I had to read things over two times just to really focus and understand everything. But once it's like in my head, it never leaves. So in that sense, it was just a lot of hard work to achieve all of the um, scholastic awards I've received from high school to college and in medical school. It was just a lot more work.
Very interesting because I would have thought maybe that it was like you said, speaking of more than one language, that maybe that's what was, happening at the time. And how was it that you ended up finding out that you were a dyslexic and you had ADHD? Because back in the day, there was no such thing to test someone or to even know that that was a factor.
Yeah, and a lot like around my time, they would just you have to repeat the grade. And so and for a child to repeat a grade, that can be very demoralizing for that child to achieve success in the future. I didn't have to repeat the first grade though. I did not have to. We worked very hard during my reading and they ended up just moving on to the next grade level. But my children, like the younger ones, when they're in kindergarten, they wanted them to repeat the first grade, and I was confused. I'm like, this is just ABCs and running colors. What's going on? And they were pointing out how they're not writing that well. And I realized I got them tested, and they were both dyslexic and also ADHD, and it's a genetic um, component to that. So I tested myself, and it was also positive for ADHD, dyslexia, and dysgraphia. So yeah, like I think my brain just compensated. And initially, it was a lot of memorization as a child, like my multiplication tables, um, words, just memorizing words, not really sounding amounts. So, over time, your brain does develop compensatory strategies. But I always had a difficult time, like focusing, especially like in medical school when you're taking an equivalent to about 35 college credits a semester. So it's intense. You go to a lot of material every semester. And I would study with my classmates and how they would just almost like photographic memories. They would just read, understand everything, and I'm stuck there at the library. They're leaving 8 o'clock. I'm there till 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock. Reading over the materials and the chapters again, so it gets ingrained. So it was just a lot of sacrifice and a lot of time spent at the libraries. Trying to achieve success academically.
Most
But
definitely. I mean, and I know that I have a lot of people that follow me and they're going to be questioning, well, but he is such a well-recognized doctor because you are. You're a plastic surgeon and you were able to overcome all this. They're going to say, well, how is that possible? And I just don't believe it that he actually has dyslexia or ADHD or dysgraphia or who knows. But they're going to question that. And the first thing that they're going to ask me, and they send us replies at times, they're going to say, wow, I'm actually battling that myself. How can I get myself tested? What should I do? What would you advise them as they're going to listen to this? Because your story is very, very powerful, honestly.
well, there's a lot of different places for testing, and for children, I sent my kids to the St. Jude's Hospital here in Plano, and it's very comprehensive, and also the schools. Well, now it's different. Like, a lot of schools have dyslexia teachers or specialists that can help test and categorize these children because honestly, they need a little bit extra time, especially with ADHD. And that was one of my weakest subjects was reading comprehension. And you're reading a paragraph or two and you're answering a few questions. And it would have been nice during my SATs or medical school exams, everything to have just a little bit extra time to allow my brain to really fully focus. And this all of this stuff is without any medications. It's just doing it on your own. Because, like I said in the past, I didn't really diagnose stuff, but now there's a lot more support services out there in schools, and there's a lot of actual programs. There's ways you can read called Take Flights, and that actually it's like a 5-year program, and you're learning how to read by sounding out the words and bringing them together. So it's actually there's a lot of effective tools that we didn't have 30, 40 years ago when I was a child and what they have now. So it's really changed the awareness for ADHD, the awareness for dyslexia, and all the treatment protocols. All of that has it's only been recently in the last 15 years.
Yes, and the people need to be aware because if they're not aware, how are they going to be able to receive the services that they need? Maybe accommodations in school. As you know, with your children, I'm assuming that they also have accommodations so they could meet their expectations, but because that's very important. And they just learn differently. I also have a background in the educational field, and what I know is that they are extremely bright,
Good.
very, very bright, but they just learn differently. And you just have to give those accommodations, adapt in
Yes.
the classroom so they
And
could actually be successful. Do you agree?
and there's been so much successful. 100% agree. You had people like Albert Einstein, Elon Musk, all these famous people, famous composers, Mozart, famous like inventors that were dyslexic. And usually it kind of correlates with ADHD if they're going to be up, all night doing like experiments. For me, I don't need much sleep also because my brain's always very active and it's always thinking about different things. But when you're focused and you love something, and I love what I do, I love medicine, I love helping people, I love operating. Then you stay focused. Like sometimes, like we're operating, we're doing a few surgeries. It's about a 10-hour day, and I never lose energy, and it's a passion of mine. Once you're focused on something that you love, you continue, and it just the time just flies by without even being aware of that.
Wow.
So
I mean, that's very fascinating that in your the way that you see life is that as long as it's something that you enjoy and you're passionate about, it doesn't matter if it's 10 hours or more, you're going to do great, which I know you do. And you're one of those recognized doctors in the area in Plano, people that are listening or thinking about having a surgery, a procedure, and as well, if something happened to you, you were in an accident, which is very sad, but it happens. I would assume that you also could do reconstruction of them, and they will end up looking great, amazing. And I know you have a little bit of stories of that on that in that area of having
yeah,
surgeries of people that have had a bad, injury or accident in the vehicle, and you've been able to step in because of your heart. You care the passion that you and Karina place on trying to help even students, which I heard that before the recording. She mentioned that to me yesterday, the fact that you and her come and help those students so they could also thrive, so they could be their best version. And of course, in our culture, there's always that need, that financial support and people that have these accidents. And I know you have that kind of heart.
Oh, yes. And that's one of the reasons why I chose medicine and why I chose plastic surgery as my field, because I've always wanted to help people, and which is why I chose medicine. And what's a better field than plastic surgery? Because you're helping someone, whether it be cosmetic surgery or hand surgery or any burn reconstructions, you're always helping someone. And for cosmetic surgery, you're making people feel very confident. And I've never been the type of person, because of I would say, an increased empathy. It's very hard for me to break the bad news. Like, you're in the ICU, you're sick, it's a big trauma, like a motor vehicle accident, and you're going to withdraw care, and having that difficult conversation with families, it's hard. Or if you're doing cancer surgery and it's a stage 4, it's metastatic everywhere, you can't really do much, and you only have 2 to 6 months to live, just, and not being able to really help, that's it's very hard for me to work in any of those other fields. But plastic surgery, let's say someone's a mom and they had a few kids, or they've lost over 100 pounds, they have a lot of loose skin, we're making them feel very confident again by excising all of that tissue, making them look like they did before children, or even better. So it just makes people happy, it makes people confident, and that's why I chose this field, because it's something that it's I just wake up every morning loving what I do. And there's always it's always something different too, like our surgeries. It's not just we're just doing one surgery all week, all day. We're doing different surgeries. We're doing a facelift one day, or the next case could be a breast implant and a tummy tuck. So it's not just one surgery that we're doing every single day. It'll be very routine and a little mundane for me if that was the case. So it's nice to kind of mix things up, and just staying focused for something I'm very passionate about. uh, so it's always like a never ending energy when we're performing all of our surgeries. No, but I must say that you mentioned something, or during your when you were in your last statement, was about giving back to the community, and being Latino and Hispanic. There's not much role models out there. Even the amount of Hispanic doctors in medicine is only 6%, and we represent about 22% of the population. So we're very underrepresented in medicine. And a specialist like me, it's even less, probably 1 to 2%. So, and that's one thing I never really had, in college or in medical school, is to have role models. So I was always involved, with Hispanic organizations, and even in medicine, there's Latino Medical Association with very few members, but I was always involved in the community and outreaching to those students that need role models. And so my door is always open for any student of any color, but especially with Hispanics, because there's not much role models out there. So, and we're part of an organization called NT-LAPA, North Texas Latin American Association. And every year they have a gala. It's a nice fundraiser where I donate a lot of my sports memorabilia. I also just donate in general, but it really helps gives some of these students scholarships for medical school and also for college. So it's really nice to give back, and I'm always going to be a role model for any students, whether they're in high school, pursuing medicine, or just some higher level education or college, and just to stick with it, because it's very easy just to give up, whether it be financial, because we had a lot of pressures. Myself, I was working 2 jobs as a freshman in college. And, it can be difficult when you're the son of immigrants, because there's not much supports out there and role models.
Wow. For me, I'm like, every time I learn more about you and Karina, I'm very, very fond and very impressed of both of you, of what you all are doing for the community. And of course, like you, being Hispanic, I have that heart to help as well. I care because I know where you're coming from, going to college and having, as you said, several jobs at the same time to make sure that you were taking care of your classes and your bills and all that. It could become very challenging at times. But knowing that there is a possibility, but you're now on the other side, but you're wanting to go and help the community. That means a lot. And I know that there's going to be people that are going to say, I would want to reach out to him because I'm going to school and I would love to know, what other help there is available or, just to even talk to you because there's so much that you have to offer the community and the kind of heart that you and Karina have is just amazing. Where could people find you, contact you? Because I definitely want to support you as well, because I know that you're an amazing doctor, and I've actually been there with you as well. And as friends, I would love for people to be able to contact you and be able to receive those high end services that you offer.
We get a lot of messages. Well, thank you very much. We get a lot of messages on our social media. And so our name on social media is Dr. Plano because we're based in Plano, Texas. So it's just DR Plano, no dot in between after doctor. And we have a very active TikToks, Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram accounts. So a lot of people will reach out to us through those social media outlets, or they can just call the office directly, and they can always speak with Karina, who's also the office manager.
Yes. And what are the numbers? Do you have a direct line, your email of the office as well? Because definitely people are going to say, well, I don't live in Plano, but I know that you're a five-star doctor and the care that you offer as well.
Well, the number is 972-378-3870. And they can always call anytime. Our office is always open from 8:30 to 6 o'clock, and on weekends also on Saturdays.
Okay. And is there an email or TikTok where people could follow you? It's just doctor without the dot Plano. And it will take them to Instagram. It will take them to TikTok. It will take them to all the social media as well.
And we're checking our social media messages at least 3 or 4 times a day. It's a continuous process.
Wow. Well, definitely, I feel very privileged and honored to have interviewed you. And I know that we're going to have another interview very, very soon on Now Media TV. And I'm just very excited of all these wonderful things that God is doing and opening doors. But as you, it's not about me. It's about trying to find the way to help and impact our community. And of course, when it's Hispanic community, I love all the communities, but definitely that's where my heart is because I'm Hispanic as you are. So I care in finding ways to help everyone. I believe that it makes a much better place, a much better world, don't you think?
Yes. And thank you for doing this and just outreaching to the community. We need more of that. And I really appreciate your efforts. And thank you for having me here.
Yes, well, thank you so much. And stay tuned for our next episode. This is it for today, but I'm very honored once again of having Dr. Plano, Dr. A, with us today. Thank you so much and have a blessed day.
Thank you. Take care.